Porter, and then Corey, can we do a roll call?
Absolutely. Joey Knopf,
Here.
Joyce Gifford,
Present.
Tim Lanehart,
Present.
Emily Lisborg,
Here.
Aaron McClellan,
Here.
Steve Williams.
Here.
Thank you guys. Good to see you all.
All right. Next section is public comments. Go through the guidelines. Do we have any public comments
We
today?
do not have any public comments tonight.
All right, then I guess we can move to presentations. It looks like we have the Tri-City Outfall Project update, or is it
No,
something
that's the
different first?
volunteer opportunity.
Oh, sorry, 3A volunteer opportunities.
Yes.
Apologies, reading the
I
wrong.
was going to say, don't sign me up for a presentation, because I'm not going to be able to do that well.
Hang on one sec.
No
Let me
worries.
Get back to my.
This is my
Somebody's
first
here.
time on the presenter side of this room. Yeah. It's nice to see you. I've heard a lot about you, Emily.
Oh, I keep seeing your name on all these emails.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to have all these volunteer opportunities.
Steve and Aaron, can you see my screen? City of Oregon City Volunteer Opportunities?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Yay.
Well, hello, good evening, Parks and Recreation Committee. My name's Hannah Schmidt, and I'm the Community Engagement Specialist with the City of Oregon City. I've been with the city for just over 9 months now, and I'm here to give a presentation on the varying volunteer opportunities that the city has offered and some of the initiatives that I've taken since joining in November of 2023, which already feels like a lifetime ago. So, for whatever reason, my clicker is not
Yeah.
working.
Where is my, oh,
Maybe? Aha!
here we go.
Yay! Look at that. So, and first, starting with the city, something that I noticed is that each department independently ran their volunteer programs, which makes a lot of sense, especially since there's not a designated volunteer coordinator for the City of Oregon City, which, believe it or not, I am not either. But something that I wanted to be able to do is kind of get a comprehensive idea of all of the volunteer opportunities that the city has to offer. Obviously, Parks and Recreation Department is a top contributor to our volunteer opportunities. Within that, the Pioneer Community Center is obviously a stronghold of being able to provide a lot of different volunteer avenues. Through our city recorder and assistant city recorder, they're still filing all of these past records and definitely need assistance in that. So that's something that was a great activity for me to A, familiarize myself with the city, and then B, just become familiar with all of the varying opportunities that the city has to offer. So I wanted to make sure that you all were aware of those as well. One of the other things, each independent department conducts their own internal recruitment for specific volunteer needs or roles, but I wanted to make sure that as a community engagement specialist, I was distributing information on citywide opportunities that the city was able to provide for members of the public. So there's various different community outreach events that I have attended to be able to distribute that information to the public to better engage our members and our residents with the city. So some of those were the Oregon City Business Alliance Forum, the Spring Forward Community Resource Fair, Clackamas Community College Summer Connections, the First City Celebration, National Night Out, and in October, the city will also be a part of the Clackamas Community College's Indigenous Peoples Days. So that will be on Saturday, October 13th. We're still in collaboration on what exactly our role will be in that event, but that'll be something that I'll definitely be distributing information out at as well. Another thing that I noticed in joining with the city is that there wasn't a one-stop shop for members to be of the public to be able to visit and become acquainted with all of the different opportunities. So I created a web page that outlined better all of the opportunities that the City of Oregon City offers for our volunteers. We have on that webpage a calendar with some upcoming events. We're able to post highlights of our volunteer opportunities and different events, as you can see from our volunteer recognition event. We have Damon Mabey there who accepted an award. I'll get into that a little bit later. But one of the things that I specifically created to help mainstream individuals being able to access interest through the city for volunteer opportunities was through an online volunteer application form. This just makes it easier for one-stop shop. Again, people can go into, express their interest for varying different activities, and then those application forms are sent directly to the corresponding staff, which is just helpful in general. I'm looking to be able to expand that a little bit more as far as not just expand the volunteer application form, but expand the volunteer policies that we have as a city of Oregon City, but that's still something that's under process. I lost access.
And now it won't?
There. One of the volunteer programs that I have worked in creating is the Oregon City Ivy League. Some of you may be familiar. It's a newly established volunteer program that was established back in April, where I have volunteers sign up to be able to do Ivy polls. We first started in Old Kanema Park and are more recently expanding into Waterboard Park. If you're available on Saturday, September 21st, we would be able to love to have your participation. Specifically, the volunteer program is catered towards individuals who are 13 years or older because I'm the main person who's coordinating these events, and it's hard when you have a large amount of people to be able to accommodate children who are younger, especially when you have sharp tools. If you're able to head over to Old Kanema Park, you can see some of the work that we are able to accomplish. There's already been an oak sapling that's popped up over on the property from where we were able to clear some ivy, and we will be headed back to that property later into next year, but we just needed to switch up site locations, for accessibility, because that's not one of the properties owned by Oregon City Parks and Recreation that is super accessible to the public. And then it's nice to be able to open access to different parks. That way you can get involvement from different members of the community. Not only do we focus on English ivy, but other invasive plant species like holly, Himalayan blackberry, tree of heaven, Scotch broom have been some of the species that we've been able to tackle. And we specifically focus on ringing technique, where you scrape the ivy. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar, from about shoulder height all the way down, and then make sure to clear the tree about like a 3-foot perimeter. That way the ivy doesn't have the tendency to encroach back. But as many of you know, ivy is like an ongoing battle, and it's probably a battle that will be never ending. The Oregon City Ivy League is also supported by the Oregon City Parks Foundation, so I wanted to make sure that they were recognized for that. A part of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, I'm sure you're very well aware on why English ivy is a species of concern. First of all, it's enveloped all over Oregon City parks, not just in our public parks, but throughout the city of Oregon City, specifically especially along hillsides. It's known not only for engulfing trees, but then overtaking them and then causing the issue of having trees collapse and creating certain public safety hazards. So like I said, we'll be conducting our next Ivy poll at Waterboard Park on September 21st from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. I'll leave some flyers with Corey in case if people are interested. We'd love to be able to have your participation, or even if you want to spread the word. Something that's unique about this program too, because of our limited funding, it's a bring your own tools event, which has been relatively successful. A lot of people have been more than willing to provide not only loppers and hand snippers, but also we've had the luxury of people having smaller electric chainsaws, which has been vital in being able to tackle some of those larger root systems. I'm also in collaboration with Clackamas River Basin Council and the Greater Oregon City Watershed Council to be able to put on a field trip for Springwater Environmental Science School for 8th grade students, and that will be happening over at River Access Park. Of course, this will be an event that's closed to the public. We're still in the early stages of collaboration on that, but I'm very excited to be able to have that field trip worked out. I wanted to also highlight quickly the efforts that staff had gone through to be able to create a more specialized event for our volunteers. Historically, in the past, I know that there has been recognition for our volunteers at concerts in the park, providing them with sometimes Oregon City swag and a meal, but over the past couple of years before I even onboarded, staff recognized that our volunteers really do deserve more recognition than that. So this year I was a part of coordinating and facilitating that, which of course you know that your own member was recognized for being the Outstanding Committee Member of the Year. And this is something that I'm really looking forward to in the years to come, and making sure that our volunteers feel recognized and also have the ability to commune with one another and really get to know one another. Because I know, especially if you're just a part of a board and committee, the people that you see around you are most of the time the only ones that you interact with. With that said, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have at all.
I just want to start off by saying thank you for presenting and going through that, and especially the work with the Ivy League. I live by, my house backs up to the Kenema area, and yeah, it's an ongoing battle with the Ivy. I mean, the biggest question that I would have is how is we as the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, how can we help you? I love the thing that you're doing with the website. That was going to be one of the things I was going to ask about. If we're cooperating with the new website that's going to be out there, how else can we help you get the word out there to kind of volunteer across the city?
I think that any connections that you have with other community organizations in regard to, spreading the word. I've been in contact with the Boy Scouts. It just, schedules have not always aligned with them being able to participate in our Ivy polls. I've recently tried to connect with the FFA agency to be able to see if they have students, but especially if you have or are know of any organizations with youth to be able to get involved. I'm also the city liaison for the Youth Advisory Commission. I've tried to rope them into, but it's hard to keep their direction focused on one specific thing. So any ways that you can be able to get the word out and just have participation at those events would be great.
Great. Yes, go ahead, Joyce.
Do you also work with the Citizen Involvement Council in getting volunteers for the different neighborhoods?
Yes, I do. So I'm the city liaison for the Citizen
That's what you
Involvement
said. Okay,
Committee.
it's really hard to hear.
Yeah. So I am the liaison for the Citizen Involvement Committee as well, and have received support from some of the members on that board as well, and was even able to be introduced to people from the Kenema neighborhood, working within the old Kenema Park, and we're able to rope them into Ivy League, and then also kind of steer them towards interests of, if you have other issues in your neighborhood that you want to address, you should go to the Kenema Neighborhood Association.
I will add that Erin, I don't know how to add chat to this, but Erin is very impressed with your efforts to coordinate across the system and is very supportive of the work that you have done in a relatively short time since you've been here. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Erin.
And Steve, I know that you raised your hand. If you want to speak, and if we can't hear you, I can try to repeat it for you.
I will do this very loudly. Just a suggestion, the ROTC program at the high school is always looking for volunteer opportunities as well for the youth that are involved in that program.
I've reached out to one of their leaders and have been in contact with them because I initially met him at one of the cemetery volunteer opportunities, but have not had success in reaching him through email. So if there's any other contact for that program that you would be able to connect me with, I would be happy to receive that information.
I'll see what I can do.
Thank you so much, Steve.
And Erin, I see that you'd raised your hand as well, or did Corey cover that? Oh, okay, go ahead.
No, I will also try to talk loudly. Have you connected with any local businesses, or are you interested in connecting with local businesses for volunteer opportunities?
I would absolutely be interested in connecting with local businesses. There was a while back when I had first started, I think it was Supercuts or one of the local hair dressing agencies that reached out for me for volunteer opportunities. And I presented them the Ivy League. They did not seem very interested. It's also hard working on a Saturday. I think some corporations are looking to do a weekday event. And eventually, maybe that's something that we would be interested in doing, like a specialized, if a business wanted to be able to do a work party, being able to coordinate something, that's definitely something that I would be interested in the future.
I'd love to get you in contact with someone from the business chamber, the Oregon City Business Chamber, as well as some of the local gym owners here in Oregon City. I'll make that my to-do.
That would be awesome. Thank you, Erin.
And just as a follow-up to that, as my to-do, I work on the Boy Scout Council for Oregon City and Beaver Creek, so I can be a contact for that and the National Guard that does the ROTC and the program. So I'll
Awesome.
reach out to you, make that my to-do this week as well.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions that were there?
I just wanted to echo what Erin said. You've done so much in such a short amount of time. When I first started volunteering a couple of years ago, it was really hard to find information consolidated on one page as to all the volunteer opportunities. So I think that's really important. I think especially for folks who aren't familiar with city government and this is their first time volunteering, having that streamlined application is just, yeah, so incredibly valuable. So thank you. And I feel like you wear many hats. I've seen you like photographing at events and like pulling ivy and doing presentations. So it's very cool, very appreciated.
Yeah.
Have you talked to the Hort program at CCC? I know there's a great horticulture program there. I forget the woman who I've spoken with who's involved with the Environmental Learning Center.
Okay.
But I know they're very concerned about invasives, and they have pretty frequent invasive removal parties at the Learning Center. Sometimes I see them there when I'm visiting the market. Do you want me to put you in touch? If that's not a conversation that you've had already?
It's not a conversation. I have
Okay.
not had the pleasure of even visiting the Environmental
Oh my
Learning Center
gosh,
yet,
you would
which,
love it, I think.
I've
Yeah,
heard
it's
is
really great.
amazing and I need to do.
Okay.
But I would love to be able to
Yeah,
get
I'm
in
blanking on
contact.
her name right now, but she's
Okay.
great, and yeah, I can put you two in touch.
Awesome.
All right, well, thank you for coming today.
Thank you. And yeah, as I stated before, I am the liaison for the Citizen Involvement Committee and the Youth Advisory Commission. I know in the past, people have also talked to me about there being a youth seat on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. If that's something that you would be interested in really recruiting for, that's something that I would be more than interested in being able to help you with. I will not give up one of my youth advisory commissioners to sit on your seat because it's really difficult with all of their varying schedules. But if that's something that you are interested in, then I'm more than willing to be able to help collaborate on some ways to be able to engage a youth member on your committee.
I didn't even know that was an option. That sounds really cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, Hannah. Awesome.
It was lovely to meet all.
Thank
Have a great evening.
All right. I think that ends our presentations for today, so we can move forward to general business. Looks like we have approval of the April 26, 2024 PRAC minutes.
And that should be in the packets in front of you if you haven't had a chance to review those. Does anybody happen to know how I can add a chat option? A staff member or?
I'm not sure if I've never seen a chat option on the
Within
virtual.
Zoom?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
on Zoom there is, but for city meetings, it's inaccessible.
Oh,
So I don't know if
okay.
it's the
Maybe
kind of
that's why
account
I'm
you
like, I
have.
swear
It
I've done
usually
this
shows-
It
before.
normally just has it,
That's what
but it's
okay.
usually disabled.
Okay. Sorry, Erin.
It might be like, because it has to be public, so, and because people couldn't see
True.
the comments, I think that maybe that's why.
Got it. Okay, thank you. I'm like, seems like it's not so easy.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I'll second.
Excellent, thank you. I'll take a roll call. Joey Nuff,
Yes.
Joyce Gifford,
Yes.
Tim Lanehart,
Yes.
Emily Lisborg,
Yes.
Tim West,
Yes.
Aaron McClellan,
Yes.
and Steve Williams.
Yes.
Thank you all.
All right, so it looks like the next part of our general business is going over transition plan and 6-month PRAC agenda discussion.
So, here we sit. Let's talk about the transition plan. You're stuck with me until we fill a director role. For those who aren't aware, I was recently promoted to the deputy director role for Parks and Recreation. That position is designed to fill in exactly this situation. And if you also have not heard, Kendall month. So what we're going to discuss tonight is kind of our 6-month transition plan, knowing that that plan is flexible, dependent upon how long it takes to recruit a director. That's kind of where I'm going to start, is with our staffing plan, because right now I'm currently wearing 3 hats. So Brandon Watt, if you remember Brandon, has stepped in as our interim Parks and Cemetery Manager. For the duration while we recruit a new Parks and Cemetery Manager. That position closed on August 20th. We had 21 applicants for that position, and we're going through the review process right now. We'll be setting interviews up and then moving that through the process. The Parks and Recreation Director position has been posted. It's been posted to our own internal city website, as well as the State Parks and Rec Association and the National Parks and Rec Association websites. We are getting some interest in it. I think we've had about 36 applicants so far. That position currently closes September 15th, but that's kind of a rolling application until that process concludes. The Assistant City Manager, Alex Rains, is going to be leading that recruitment, which kind of leads me into my next topic, which is the interim reporting structure for the department during this transition period. Assistant City Manager Alex Rains is kind of filling that director role where she's more responsible for kind of the policy and the administrative direction of the Parks and Recreation Department. I report directly to her. I have one-on-ones with her, and she provides us guidance as needed. My role is really the responsibility for the day-to-day operations of the Parks and Recreation Department. The division managers are reporting directly to me. I'm having those one-on-ones with the division managers and then meeting with Alex to discuss any policy or administrative needs. And then I am also performing the oversight of department-wide projects, leading the PRAC meetings, and then leading any city commission meetings that would have a Parks and Recreation agenda topics. For the division managers, pretty much stays the same, just kind of who they're reporting to for the interim period. They still oversee their individual division staff and division-led projects, meet with me regularly, discuss operations and administrative needs, and then attend PRAC and city commission meetings as needed. We've been working on a 6-month PRAC agenda, just so that we kind of know what we're going to be doing in this transition period, and I'll have Corey share that now. So obviously we're here in August. We've talked about our volunteer opportunities. Oh, let's make sure she can share it first.
Sorry.
No worries. I'm getting ahead of myself. Steve and Aaron, can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
So here we are in August, and our agenda is what you see on your agenda sheet. So we're talking about volunteer opportunities. Next in September, we're going to have kind of a dual meeting where we'll have a meeting here at City Hall to start with. There's kind of a time-sensitive need to discuss the McLaughlin Boulevard Enhancement Project that has transportation system plan requirements to discuss that with PRAC. They're going to come and give us an update on that from Planning and Public Works. And then we'll have a shuttle that'll take us over to the pool, where we'll do a site visit with the pool and discuss the new pool pollinator garden. That is planned for an installation sometime in the October-November timeframe. Those are the plants that we received from our friends at the Xerxes Society through their pollinator grant. October, because of some of the timing of this, October might be a bit of a busy month, but one of the main things that we need to kind of figure out as a group, the scheduled time for the PRAC meeting is during the ORPA conference, which several of us will be in attendance at. So there are kind of two options. We could shift the date with consensus, or we could hold that meeting entirely virtually and staff can hold the meeting from the conference. So we'll pause here for a minute and just kind of have discussion on which option works better for you.
I mean, I would say we shift the date to move it maybe the week prior, if that works for everybody, since we're not meeting on November and then December, we're gonna be doing interviews.
Either the week prior or after.
Yeah, I think the week prior would work really well if that works for everybody else.
Yeah, so we're not on Halloween, I think that would be,
Yeah,
two young kids, that would be preferable for me.
yeah, that was kind of our thought as well. So if everybody agrees to that, we'll make sure that that's noticed and get that on your calendars as soon as possible.
So what, does that change that to?
I believe it would be October 17th.
I've got my calendar right here.
Thanks for the thumbs up, Aaron.
And
Yes, it would be October 17th.
I don't have the charter, but do we have to vote on that, or can we just do it?
I think we have the ability to set our schedule.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as long as everybody is in
I think it-
agreement, then
I think
we,
it just says,
As long as it's publicly
Yeah.
noticed. And,
Right.
Yep.
okay.
All right, and then looking at October for the topics that we have on there, we kind of met at the cemetery, we did a tour there, we discussed briefly that we were gonna bring some updates with you, bring updates about the cemetery fees and how that schedule looks, how we move that forward through city commission. We've been doing that work, presenting that to the assistant city manager and city manager. We have a meeting next week to go over that feedback, and then we'll bring that to PRAC for review before we take that to the city commission. Some of the other things, we're really trying to focus on some administrative policies in this transition period. So one of those is a memorial and bench policy. We don't currently have one. We have a lot of memorials. We have a lot of memorial benches out there, but we don't have a way of how do we process people who want to submit an application for this? How do we review? How do we approve? We've got a draft policy that we'll bring to you for feedback and review. And that can also include things all the way up to like, large scale monuments and things like that for individuals. We've been having some discussion about creating a department-wide patron behavior policy. We have facilities that have patrons. Sometimes they don't follow the rules. This is a similar process to what the library has been going through, where we have people who kind of violate different rules at different levels of severity. How do we address that? What are the consequences for that? So that's something that we're working on right now. Melissa, is there anything else you want to share about that, or just kind of what the goal is?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the behavior policy.
Yeah.
I don't think, sorry, my mic wasn't on. Yeah, I think it's more of an update of some of our policies. We currently have exclusion policies, or what has been referred to as an exclusion policy, both at the Pioneer Center and the swimming pool, and it's been 10 years since that was put in place. And so, with that, as well as at the swimming pool, there's a long list of different pool rules. My goal with this has been to essentially merge those two documents into one. And then it's, essentially turned into, well, why don't we have all of our departments' items just in one document so we have one place to look? There's still gonna be opportunity to take that overall document and segment it for each of our facilities. If, a patron wants to know specific things for, what's allowed during a lap swim at the pool, but they don't need to know all the park rules, we'll have the ability to still separate that, but it's really to help all of our staff in the department know where to find things for, all the different sites and facilities and programs that we manage, or, specifically again, for both the Pioneer Center staff and the swimming pool staff, we have our specific sites that people are visiting, but we also run a lot of programs and a lot of events that don't take place at those two sites. So, getting more clear communication that if the same behavior happens outside that site, we have the same expectation for participation in a program. So, the intent behind it.
Perfect. One of the other items that we had scheduled for October is the Water Environment Services Good Neighbor Agreement. They typically come at that time of year to give a program update. If you'll remember, through that agreement, we receive a certain amount of funds every year for use down in kind of the Clackamat area, the Clackamat Cove River access area. So they'll come and give an update on kind of how that program is running, what the purpose of it is, and some of the work that we've done together. And then follow that up with holiday programming updates. So just talking about kind of what our offerings are for the holidays. If you have any suggestions or ideas, think of them now so that we can get them into the works.
Looks like Steve, you raised your hand.
Yeah, I did. Thank you. I'll be real quick. Thomas, are there any potentially in October updates regarding Clackamat Park? Be they boat ramps or anything else that we might be able to be informed about?
That's a great question, Steve. So we are currently in the process of contracting with an archaeology consultant for Clackamat Park Boat Ramp, and we actually may be able to give an update on that work by the October deadline. There's a couple items that I have as kind of extra stuff for us to figure out kind of where they fit in. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on and one that may come up during this 6-month period.
In regards to the Clackamat master plan, do you have that completed?
The Clackamat Park master plan is completed. We're currently working on the zone change for the RV park component.
All right, and have you figured out what kind of playground equipment you're going to go ahead and do? Is this going to be a toddler park, or is this going to be a 5 to 12-year-old park?
That's a good question. So that's not quite where we're at yet with that. Once we get into kind of the engineering and design, that's where we'll move some of those questions forward. Yeah. Right now, the focus is using that West Good Neighbor money, which we can use towards the boat ramp. So we'll work on kind of 2 projects simultaneously, the boat ramp project and then the rezoning of the lot across the street for the RV park. We work on moving the RV park over there. So now we have additional space within the park to design and build in. That area is going to take some time to kind of heal the effects of the RV park and build that back up. So that's kind of what our focus is right now. But as we move into the design of Clackamat Park, these are definitely questions we'll bring forward. Awesome. Any other questions on October?
As long as we're just asking questions.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. And I was looking at the April minutes, and one of the things that you had looked at was update on the pickleball courts.
Yes.
And did you ever finalize an agreement, and are you going to do anything up there at the pickleball?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We've been working on a memorandum of understanding with the Hillendale Pickleball Club. We're working through the terms of that agreement right now. It's kind of in their court. We've given them the copy, and yeah, sorry for the joke there. Didn't even think about that. But yeah, it's kind of in their hands right now to review the terms of that agreement. It might actually create a separate fund of money that we use specifically for the pickleball courts. So that's kind of the intention behind that is working through a process where they're comfortable paying the fee in order to improve the courts.
Could I see a copy of that MOU?
Yeah.
And what kind of fee did you finally come up with?
So it's currently being negotiated. I think the last thing that they discussed was it's about $120 a month it would end up being. So it equates to roughly their usage of the court. Mm-hmm. Yep. Right. So November is our PRAC meeting falls on Thanksgiving, so we typically don't have one on that date. December is our work session to work through PRAC applicant interviews. So please make sure you get your applications in, and then we'll have a work session for those. Corey, do you know who is up this year?
I believe Joey's term is up.
I think it's next year.
Is it next year? I know that there's 3 of you. Steve and Ken are both, are 2 of them. I would have to look again. For some reason, I had Joey in mind, but.
It might be, but I thought it was next year, but it
Okay.
might be this year.
Okay, Yeah, I'll take a peek. And I can circle back to that.
And then looking out into January, we're looking to have an update on kind of the phase 2 of our Park Place project through the Metro Enhancement Grant that was provided to the Park Place Neighborhood Association. We'll do an update on the Section 6F process at John Storm. The work that's going on down there to widen the bridge took a piece of the park. Because of that, they have to replace it. So there's a piece of land that ODOT has identified that they're potentially going to gift to the city in exchange for the land that was necessary for the construction of the bridge. So we'll have an update for that. We'll do a holiday programming review. How did things go? And then some of the kind of the extra stuff that I'm holding back for kind of when they fit in. We're still working through our STC methodology with our consultant. That process will continue. That will need to come to PRAC before it goes to City Commission. So as soon as that's kind of ready to go, we'll get that in the agenda as well. And then recently, the Natural Resources Committee indicated an interest in holding a joint work session with PRAC to discuss city trees, both kind of citywide, but specifically in parks, and the need for a city forester program. So there's some opportunities through the Oregon Department of Forestry for some grant money that would help fund things like a canopy survey, give us some recommendations on how to address tree canopy going forward, especially with climate change. So that has been a request, and I'll leave that to PRAC to determine if they want to do that and when they would like to do that.
Is that open for conversation now? Or?
It is, yes. Yeah.
And have they noted any time that they would like to do it, just as soon as possible or sometime within the next 6 months?
I think really the request was as soon as we're able to. So we could try to fit it in October. I don't think it's going to be an extensive, like a full 2-hour work session. I think it's more just a discussion back and forth. I do know their goal is to pursue budget dollars for a position, and so they'd like to have it probably sometime within this 6-month period so that we can have those conversations before we're getting into budget season.
Yeah, just for a little bit of context on when and where, like I'm on the NRC as well, and we usually meet on Wednesdays. So we met like last Wednesday. As far as I know, like most people are available in the evenings, so it's possible that it could be like a, potentially come in, like NRC members could come to a PRAC meeting if that works out easier. I don't know if there's time, but yeah, we're ideally in the next couple months, like sooner rather than later. The city forester position is something that the NRC has been talking about for as long as I've been on the committee, so almost 2 years now, and I know that it had probably 2 to 3 years of history prior to that, so I'm not sure if there was a joint session with PRAC. But there hasn't been one in the past 2 years, so that's definitely something that we're interested in. We've made a couple of documents kind of outlining why this is a valuable position, and in the long term it could save the city money because that's work that we currently contract out as a city, and so having a forester, no conflict of interest there, whereas if an arborist comes and has a financial stake, in removing trees, then that there's a little bit of a conflict of interest there. So, is that something that you all are interested in talking about with NRC? It's something that we'd ideally like to present to the commission before the next budget cycle. So, probably in the next couple of months meeting, and then we have a document of revisions to a tree code policy that we're submitting, and so some kind of communication or input from PRAC members as to that would be great as well. And I think probably timing wise, we're looking at like, 2 hours or less, probably at least an hour, I would guess, depending on how much experience you all have with trees and arboriculture.
Thank you, Emily.
All right. It looks like, October.
October looks full.
October looks full, but my thought with, I don't know if it'd be too much, 2 meetings. No, that wouldn't make sense. Because we're moving our date already in October to the week before. And then everyone will be in the conference the week after. September seems there. We're doing, it looks like a site visit during that meeting. Would the idea be like a Wednesday I'm pretty open. So I'll
Wednesday,
leave it open to the committee and their
NRC
thoughts.
is definitely free on Wednesday. At least that, so it'd be like the, what is it, the second or third Wednesday? I can't remember. But yeah, we always meet on a Wednesday.
Steve, go ahead.
Would it looks, I mean, just looking at the schedule, if we need it in the next couple of months, would a subcommittee of PRAC, be able to attend an NRC meeting and accomplish some of the things that way? Is that a possibility or something that might work, given the schedule I'm looking at?
That sounds great. I think any involvement from any number of PRAC members who are willing to put some time into it would be great.
I think that'd be great. Yeah.
So I guess I can email everyone with the dates for the next, say, 3 months of NRC meetings, and then like maybe do a doodle poll as to when as many people are available as possible and wanting to come.
I was gonna say, you're the connecting member, all right? You've got to schedule all the calendars here. I think I'm not gonna speak for everybody. We're pretty open to the dates. Just let us know, I believe.
Okay, yeah, I'll send out those dates, and then we meet at 6:30 at the planning building, so not here. But there's also a virtual option as well, so.
This
whichever.
one's Wednesday nights.
Those are on Wednesday, yeah, Wednesday at 6:30.
I'm out.
Oh, okay, darn it.
And we can help coordinate that with you, Emily, if you want to reach out.
Okay, great, thank you.
Steve, do you have something
Tim,
else?
one question, not to be I don't know, a bureaucrat, but do we have to worry if a subcommittee can probably be no more than 3 go to a meeting? Is that a problem somewhere?
I'm happy to confirm those details. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I can check that out through the city recorder's office.
It might be the case, but that's fine. I mean, as long as we know what our number can be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I'll just, from the park standpoint, with the emergence of Emerald Ash Borer too, this is a position that could really help the city prepare as that continues to become a problem here in Oregon.
Yeah, that's something that we've definitely been talking a lot about, the NRC, and having potentially applying for grant money through ODF and then getting an inventory so that, if and when they come, there's documentation as to what has been lost so that federal funding could potentially be available for mitigation down the line.
So at this point, is there anything not on this list that you'd like to see in the next couple months?
I just had a question.
Yeah.
Follow up on you presented on the Wesley Lynn Dog Park
I did.
habitat enhancement. Is that any updates on that project? Or?
Yeah, so we met with the Gaffney Lane Neighborhood Association and got some feedback from them on kind of the 2 options that we talked about at our PRAC meeting, kind of the fully fenced and then more like the L-shaped fence that would just kind of separate dogs from the road. They kind of had mixed feelings as well. There was a group that was more fully fenced. There was a group that was more like just half fence. But we have, I actually just worked on the contract and got that signed with Lango Hansen to prepare designs for what that would look like. And then that way we can take that back to you and the neighborhood associations, do some public outreach and figure out which option is really what the area wants, what's going to make the most sense. We'll also get some more firm cost estimates with that, particularly on the restoration component. I've kind of outlined with them that for the Metro local share dollars, it really needs to have a restoration component with that wetland. So we'll help design all that out and share that with PRAC and see where that project goes.
Thank you.
I'd like a subject addressed, and that is the potential future parks for Oregon City.
Sure.
I know you've got a bucket list, you've got land looked at where you're going to go ahead and put these. It'd be nice to go ahead and share that with this committee and see what you're planning on and what that's going to look like.
Yeah, and a lot of that's going to be covered when we talk about SDC methodology. Some of that was in that CIP list that we reviewed previously. A lot of the focus areas are kind of on the Park Place Neighborhood Association area, The Caulfield area, kind of out closer to TSW, Myers Lane, some of those areas that were shown in the Parks Master Plan and those equity maps where we see a lot of gaps. So those are kind of the general areas. It's hard to pinpoint a specific point right now, because when we do, prices tend to go up. But those are kind of the areas that we're thinking about generally speaking, and as we move through the SDC methodology, we'll get a little more specific on that.
I will circle back and let you all know that according to the 2024 roster for PRAC members, it is Joey, Steve, and Ken whose terms will expire as of December 31st, 2024. If you show something different, then certainly.
And can some of them reapply? Like,
Yes,
okay, but not all of them.
correct.
Good question. Have we received applicants for this upcoming?
I have received no applications
Okay.
yet. I don't think it's open until late September, maybe?
Oh, okay.
Early October.
Oh,
It's
that
just
makes
a
sense.
window of, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
We received most of those October, November.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Any other comments on this, or?
All right.
All right, thank you.
Aaron just raised her hand.
Sorry, I'm a bit late. Corey, is it possible to send us that application link when it does become live?
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
I'd love to promote it on my social channels.
Yeah, you
Thank
got it. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tom. I think the next portion is the PRAC annual report.
Yep. So in your packet, and I think we have a couple hard copies as well.
Yes, it's not in your packet here just
It was
because it would take up so much
Yeah, I've got them here.
paper.
I saw 38 pages.
It was in the agenda packet, but I do have a couple, if you want to pass them around.
Yep.
I do have a couple hard copies.
I've got an electronic copy. So really what we wanted to talk about is, if you've read through the report, it really focuses a lot on kind of the staff work and everything that we've accomplished. We really want to add in what PRAC has accomplished, and so we just wanted to have a discussion around that. We did want to point out too that one of the things we're working towards with the pollinator garden is a volunteer day. We'd love to have you come out and actually put some plants in the ground for that project. And ideally, we'll time that at a point where we can share that as well during the PRAC annual report to City Commission to really highlight some of the work that you guys have done. But just wanted to get an idea from you about what work we've done in the past year that you really want to highlight and recognize for yourselves, especially since we have esteemed volunteers as well.
My wife's going to make fun of me for wearing one shirt to every meeting that we have, so. My Thursday work shirt, it's okay.
I like it.
I did remember seeing this.
Oh, sorry, I'm just looking
Yeah, no
through.
worries. For me, I would really, I would say probably the work on the Parks Master Plan, since that was a big accomplishment this year and had to go through PRAC several times. I think that would be a big one. Looks like Steve has his hand raised.
Steve, good?
Yeah, just quickly, we were involved, were we not? I gotta remember if it's the right time. We were directly involved, at least I know Tim and I were directly involved in some of the budget discussions that took place with regard to funding for the Parks Department and some of the elements there. I think that was exactly what we talked about, how we could be helpful to the department, and we should recognize that.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's great.
One thing that I was really impressed by was that the ratings for the swim instructors went up by over half a point in less than a year. That seems pretty awesome, and it seems like there's way more lifeguards.
Yeah, really just, I think what helped dramatically with that this last year is retention of staff. So, and having a lot of our staff who have been there for longer periods of time and have solidified their skills. And then I really have to give recognition to one of our head lifeguards, Michael Jansen. She has spent an immense amount of time getting her water safety instructor certification and passing on the skills and knowledge that she's listened to with a lot of our swim instructors too.
Yeah, that was really great.
I mean, yeah, I could give a shout out to the entire swimming pool staff, really. I mean, my son and daughter both have been in those lessons and the summer camp, and I know that it has been packed every single time, and that, you know, they've done great all summer on that. So, and the report definitely verifies that. I think it says, what, 99% filled with the spots that are there, which is just, I mean, great to see.
Awesome. This certainly isn't the last chance to comment either. You know, if you think of something as you read through the report, send that to us and we'll get it added.
I had one question.
Yeah.
I'm not super familiar with the method for the financials aquatic. So it looks like total expenses have gone up, but not by much. And cost recovery. Okay, so is that like sorry, this is on page, what page is this? It's on the page 8. So it gives like financials for the aquatics, and then cost recovery is 43%. But there were more swim lessons, so that's just because there's been more maintenance on the facilities.
Yeah, and I think I added a comment about that. We have had a really, what I would consider a pretty dramatic increase in some of our expenses for operations at the pool. Specifically, one of the things that happened this year is the chemicals that balance the water chemistry tripled in price.
Oh, wow.
But our revenue that we bring in has not increased from the standpoint of we haven't raised any of our fees in the last couple of years, or at least not to the point of being able to recover any of those extra expenses that have incurred over the last year. So even with the increase in lessons here, it's just not making in as much of a dent as how quickly those expenses are going up.
Go ahead, Steve.
Thomas, I believe we need to make a report from the PRAC report to the city council. When is that due?
So typically that has been done in October in the past. So I would think it would probably happen maybe right around the same time that we would have had our normal meeting, that same week. So I think that would be.
Yeah, I think it is late October.
Yeah. Let me look at the calendar here to see what that date is. I think it would be
The 21st.
I think it'd be the 21st.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something that we'll have to work out, what works best, but probably sometime shoot for October 21st, the week of October 21st.
Okay.
And that is typically the chair who does that.
Yeah, we can have some discussions about that.
Sounds great.
All right, is there anything else on this, or can we move to summer season updates? Good. All right, let's move forward.
All right, so we're gonna just provide some updates on how our summer season has gone. We're just about finished up, and we'll start with Melissa.
Yeah, so I will start off talking about our Concerts in the Park series. I was sent a write-up from Taylor Miller, who is our event and rental coordinator at the Pioneer Community Center, and he is taking over the coordination of the Concerts in the Park series. He had wrote in his report that he wanted to give a shout out to myself and Cecily for supporting him, but I need to give him the shout out for all the work that he did this summer. He really took ownership over that event and did an immense amount of work to make that series successful and really, thrived in that position. I'm really excited to see him continue to do that throughout this next year. He has a lot of incredible ideas and is very creative and, brings a lot of really good energy to our team. So very excited about that. We had a very, successful year despite, what happens every year. There's different weather and, other large events that were taking place the same day as ours. We were able to bring in, and we're still getting some final numbers here, but, plus or minus 5%, about 75% cost recovery for the concerts and the park programs through our generous sponsors and our vendor fees and the split the bucks revenue that we bring in. So we were able to recover a lot of the cost of that program, which was great because we're going to need to ask for more money in the next budget cycle, just with wanting to continue to bring in those popular bands that we've had in the past. Those have increased in prices and we just haven't had the budget to do that, and we're hoping to do that in the future. The attendance for the concerts was approximately 9,000 people throughout the series. That's just a guess. That's all we can ever do. We don't have that site is so open. There's people filtering in and out constantly. It's really hard to get an accurate number. And if you ask one person one thing and one another thing, they're probably going to give you a completely different number. The planning team and the staff have all had very positive debriefs with all of the vendors and with talking with the, contractors and partners and community members and everything. We had a new partnership this year with Soul Flags Art Community Center. They ended up creating a wonderful backdrop for that stage to bring that to life. And so we were very thankful to have them involved with the series and to coordinate that with community members to get that added. And then we're also excited to continue the conversation of the 4th of July event that we did this year, because that was very new to us. It was an event that was added, a little in our profession last minute when it comes to planning an event that size. And so we're already wanting to start the discussions at this point for what that's going to look like for next year. We ended up merging it with the concert series this year, just with what we were able to do with our staff capacity, but we really want that to be its own event in the future. And so that's going to be something that we are going to be moving forward with entering into 2025. The other event that will wrap up tomorrow night is Movies in the Park, and that has been really successful. Our department was able to get a grant through the Metro Enhancement Grant process, and that was able to purchase all of our own equipment for that program, which is huge for us because we historically have spent anywhere between $4,000 and $5,000 per season for that event just to rent the equipment. That didn't include any of our staff costs, marketing costs, the licensing costs for those movies, which can be pretty expensive. And we were quoted at one point that it was going to get moved up to $6,000 a year. So being able to save that annual incurrence has been fantastic. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to use the equipment tomorrow just because of the colder weather and the prediction for rain. We are going to move that event to the Pioneer Community Center indoors for that. For the summer programming and events that took place at the swimming pool, as mentioned, it was, it's a pretty busy place in the summer, and a lot of our recreation programs, I think I am constantly on autopilot all summer, with all that, it was, as well as all of our other staff. We went into this, and I think I put this in the annual report, with what I would consider our best year staffing-wise. I've worked at that facility for over 17 years at this point, and We just have an incredible team of people, but we still had, I think, anything that could have happened with our staff this summer as far as getting sick and just, family emergencies and a bunch of stuff going on that and just the facility having to get closed because of different maintenance and mechanical issues that were having come up every often. I am really, I won't say it was like the easiest summer, but I am really proud of our team and how we were able to keep services running and operating this summer and getting as creative as possible to not have any loss of service for our community members for that. We did open up I know this isn't summer, but we did open up our fall registration yesterday, and that went really well. And one of the new things that we're doing with our swimming lessons moving forward is we are giving residents priority to register for swim lessons, and that started yesterday. And then for recreation, camps were, again, had a lot of things going on in the background, but overall success. We had anywhere between 30 and 80 kids in our camps each week, depending on the week. There's some weeks where we purposely don't do as many just because of, not having the staff or the funding to be able to offer that many all summer long. We also offered this year pickleball family nights that RJ, our recreation coordinator, headed, and that was something that was new to us and ended up gaining a lot of traction at the end, and so he's really excited to continue with that next year. I think our last evening we had almost 20 people attend that, and ended up having a lot of regulars attend throughout that series. And then the Ermitinger House stayed pretty status quo with some of the events. The Friends of the Ermitinger House were involved with the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association, and we did have a couple educational talks through that. But we just opened up registration for our biggest fundraiser of the year, which is our Friday Night Frights program, and that's in partnership with the Clackamas County Historical Society and the Friends of the Ermitinger House and the Hive Social. And I'll be able to raise funds for all of those groups. And then lastly, as a department, we were able to represent all of our programs and services at other events beside our own. We set up a community outreach booth both at the First City celebration this year and National Night Out. So I think I got everything.
I loved how many and thens there are. Okay, and then.
And I probably missed like a good chunk of things that I could have said.
That's great. Any questions for Melissa?
I just want to ask one question. How is the feedback on the residents' first portion of the swim lessons?
It is exactly what I expected to happen.
Yeah.
I think, I don't think it's a secret that it is extremely difficult to get into swimming lessons. I think it's something that we've talked about a lot, especially the last few years, with the increase of people, the new developments in the city and new people moving to the city and just the backlog that we had coming out of the pandemic. We had long wait lists before all of that happened. I think us giving, and this is, something I communicated, I think us giving residents priority to register isn't necessarily solving the issue that we have. I think we still have hundreds of residents not able to get into swim lessons, so we're still gonna be getting complaints from, residents not getting into those, but we've just added some additional ones from non-residents that also aren't able to register for them at the same time now. So, it's something that we expected to happen and we're prepared to get, and staff had their plans on how to, address those comments. And I think it'll even out as we go through each season, just because we're not doing anything that most other pools in the state haven't already done. I know that a lot of the neighboring municipalities and even special districts have been giving residents priorities since coming out of the pandemic. So I think we're pretty late to getting that added for our residents, so.
Erin, I see you have your hand raised.
Thank you. I wanted to share that for the first time since moving here, I was able to register my daughter for swim lessons because of that change. And also having worked for a special park district, that it's not easy to manage that in-district, out-of-district communication, that don't want to create an us and them mentality. I think you all have done a good job of communicating what it means for an in-district or in-town person to be able to register a few days early without making it sound like an us and them piece. So I want to compliment you on what you've done so far.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
One is, have you ever looked at overflow swim pools, like the one that's in Oregon City at Nautilus, to go ahead and sublease, to go ahead and take care of all of the overflow students? That place is vacant right now, and I'm sure they'd be looking for anybody that can go ahead and rent portions of that building.
Oh, yeah, I mean, as soon as I heard that they were shutting down, I said we needed to buy that and fill it with swim lessons. So it's, definitely something that I, would want to do. It's just we don't have the staff capacity or the additional staff funding to be able to expand that. So, that's another site and another, more staff that we'd have to bring in that we just don't have the resources for to do that at this point.
Okay, thank you. The other point that I had was you guys did a great job in the concert. I thought that was great. You had a lot of workers there manning the booths and watching out for people, and you had a lot of vendors there, which really they all look very busy. I see that there's just one opportunity that's lost on the marketing of Park and Rec's programs, like the camps and the pickleball, in the fact that there's a lot of quiet time at that concert when in between breaks, and it's something that could be used to go ahead and announce that, oh, we've got some camps that are coming up, you've got a very captive audience right there, and you could probably fill each one of those and the pickleballs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's great feedback.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. All right, anything else from Melissa? All right.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Brandon, who will give us an update on Parks and Cemetery and how that summer season has gone.
I was just gonna, for our shelter reservations and stuff this past summer, this is like June through August. We've done 202 of those. And then our park rentals, large events like at Clackamas and EOT, there's been 11. That's from June to August. So that's pretty good. And we did host baseball tournaments at Chapin and Wesley Lynn, and that was 9 from May to July. So that's a pretty big deal that people are starting to want to use our sites for their tournaments. So cemetery is just plugging along. It's still kind of the same. We did have to conserve on water, so we did do an option of any of our manual watering. We had let it go because of the water shortage through the summer. We had an issue last year, but we're trying out this year and it seems to be working out really well. Our automated irrigation spots, they're still on, so it's a lot more conserving on water versus us leaving the manual ones on for quite a while. The update, that's pretty much it for the cemetery, but parks has just been a lot of irrigation repairs and looking at different sites that we need to address with aging hardware. Rivercrest is one of them. It's galvanized, so looking at updating that kind of stuff and just really analyzing all the parks of our irrigation is our main focus, mainly this year because we've had it's an aging infrastructure we need to fix. So we've been looking at that and repairing a lot of stuff. We added in some new pipes and extra irrigation at a couple sites for watering. And we did do some drainage at Wesley Lynn that's been an issue pooling up over there. So we've now fixed that problem, but it's been an ongoing thing. I mean, that's pretty much all I really have, but.
That's great. Steve, I see you have your hand raised for a question.
Yeah, thank you. I know in the past, we've talked a fair amount about problems with vandalism and other issues associated with our parks. How was that this summer? Did that up, down, about the same? Did the vandalism drop off? I know we have people that are patrolling the parks as well. How's that working this year?
The patrols and stuff have cut down on that quite a bit. We still have it at certain locations, but as for the graffiti and everything, it's gone down. I would say it's down pretty good. We're not having a whole bunch, but it's subsided quite a bit.
Excellent, thank you.
I want to ask, I did notice a couple of the trees in the cemetery that probably need to be observed by the arborist to see if they need to be replaced. If you guys have that on your radar?
We do. We have been looking around at, as I think Tom mentioned earlier, we do want to get a canopy analysis, and then we'd like to get all those trees marked. So then we have an idea of what is in decline, what is heading towards decline, what is healthy. So that would be, we keep an eye on the ones that we see that look like they're in decline. We don't really want to take action until we're for sure, because summertime trees kind of die back a little bit. And so it's something we'll assess more towards spring that would give us more of an idea of if it's in fast decline or if it was just a bad year for them, bad weather or whatnot.
I will point out too, just we've made some operational changes in the way that the parks and cemetery staff are managing sites. We've added some contracted work on some sites to free them up to work more on projects. So Brandon's kind of underplaying the irrigation issues a little bit. We had some major leaks at Wesley Lynn, Rivercrest that have been there for a long time, and those guys have gotten really good at fixing those. I mean, I think there were 5 of them that we've done so far at Wesley Lynn. So it's a lot of work that team has been able to do with just some minor operational changes that have freed them up for higher level work.
I had a question on irrigation. Do you have like specs as to how much water was used this year versus previous years? And you said you cut the manual at the cemetery, or even for like one specific park.
I don't have those numbers right now, but it would be something that the water division with their meters would be able to tell us exactly how much we use for that. And that's something we can ask the division over there and see what the usage was last year versus this year. For you guys, I don't have an actual number now.
Yeah, just be curious, like general trends. Is it like is it pretty much staying the same, or is it, decreasing a little bit, and this was a mild summer, so I don't know. I guess that's another question, like, is irrigation at all automated if it rains, like or if it's below like a certain temperature that it just doesn't go off, or is it just kind of like it goes off regardless of what it's doing outside?
It stays on, but we monitor our system, so like it's supposed to rain this weekend, and one of our techs went out and decreased. You can decrease it on each controller. So when he decreases it, it should be down to about 40 to 50% now that the rain's here. So that cuts that time, in half. So instead of a site running for we'll say 4 hours for each zone. Like Wesley Lynn's a 4 to 5 hour zone, it'll run for 2.5. So it just depends on, like you said, weather. And right now it's been cooler, so we've had to back everything way back. So this year, it's usually typically really hot. So this year would be a less of a water usage, I guess is what you're looking, is what, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, that
A
does,
little
thank
bit.
you. Yeah.
I'll follow up on that too. We did actually have Hunter, who makes most of our controllers. They came out and did a system-wide kind of audit and looked at all of our different controllers and made some recommendations on how we can automate those so we can actually control them from one central location and do exactly what you're talking about. We've got a parts list. We just need to go through the installation of that. And I don't have numbers for all the parks, but I do have numbers for the cemetery. And it's
Okay,
the one
that's the big one, right?
Yeah, it's the one that really drove that decision. Last year was 1 million gallons to irrigate the older sections of the cemetery. So the water department was requesting us to not do that, and we made the operational decision to agree with that.
Great, thank you. That's
Yeah.
great news that, looking into automating those, because that seems so much easier for
Yes.
staff instead of going on manually doing that.
Okay, not a water question. I've heard reports that there is poison oak at Park Place Park,
Yep.
and, what steps are being taken to get rid of that.
Yeah, so we just had one of our parks maintenance specialists yesterday, since we have some cooler weather. We did a minor spot spray. It's still a little early in the season for that to be fully effective. So our goal is to do a mechanical removal, like grub it out with shovels here in the fall once we do get some wet soil. And then we'll follow that up with spot spraying in the spring just to keep that off the trail. That's a strategy that's informed by the OSU extension guideline on poison oak. And we also looked at the University of California statewide integrated pest management plan for that. Yeah.
Any other questions? And does that conclude staff reports? I know it's just kind of updates that are there, but.
Yeah, I believe so, unless, yeah.
All right, it's not on the agenda, but should we give time for member reports at the end if anyone wants to add anything in?
Yes, let me include that we are now in a new reporting system when it comes to public meetings. And so you might notice that our agendas look a little bit different. I will add a member reports section.
Okay.
But this was basically the standard template that was in there. So thank you for mentioning that. I will add that next time, and I would love to hear some member reports.
Okay, open for member reports.
None here.
Owen?
What, I'd be happy to, I went to the Never Forget Garden at the cemetery that the DAR put on.
Yeah.
I was disappointed there weren't more PRAC members there. I felt kind of lonely. But it was an interesting presentation, and the cemetery did themselves proud, the crew. It looked absolutely gorgeous. The biggest questions I got was, what was that thing behind us? And that was the Parents of Murdered Children Memorial. Because we had people from statewide had come for this dedication, DAR members. And so to be able to talk to them about what that was and why it was located here was an interesting thing to do. West had their clack-a-mole kind of ribbon cutting thing last week. That's the machine that's going to be doing all that digging under John Storm Park, getting that out there. That was a fascinating machine to see, and Wes has online some videos about how that works. You guys should check that out if you get a chance. National Night Out was a lot of fun. It was a great event, and it was perfect weather for it. Had a good time, and getting to dunk the police chief was kind of fun. So, the other thing I just wanted to mention, and I know it's a historical thing, but it's right across the street from the Ermatinger House, is on September 21st. It's a Saturday. Atkinson Church, the big pink church next to the library, is having their 100th anniversary. They'll be opening a time capsule. The mayor is going to be there at noon for that ceremony. Public is invited, we'll be giving tours. And all of those buildings, where it's the fire station, which was the original city hall, and Carnegie Library and Atkinson Church, were all built within 6 or 7 years of each other right there on that corner. So it's the history of Oregon City that's fascinating, and please come, you're welcome.
Thank you, Joyce. I've got a few that I will just note, just because we haven't had, or I haven't been to an official meeting in a few months that were there. I mentioned earlier, but Melissa's staff has been excellent all summer. I mean, I had kids that were at the multiple summer camps, and they had a blast and couldn't wait to go every single day. So rain or shine, changing location, 110-degree weather. I mean, you guys went through a lot this summer. So thank you for that. Of course, the concerts in the park were awesome. Apologies on all the dancing with my 3-year-old daughter there, but it was always fun, and it was good to see the city out all summer for those. Just a personal thank you for whoever nominated me last month for the Volunteers Award benefit. I had no idea that was happening whatsoever, but it meant a lot, so thank you to forever. And the committee had that. Final thing, I got a lot of good feedback with a lot of the parents, friends that I have out there, that Rivercrest Park for the splash pad seemed to have minimal issues this summer. Whenever it was, it just seemed like it opened early, and just a lot of people had a blast there all year. So there's only 2 splash pads here, so that is feedback that I get that I just want to share. That, I mean, it was great all summer. I know they're going to get a little bit of hot weather next month, but yeah, just a lot of good feedback. I mean, I'm at the parks every week. Everything looked a lot cleaner. I don't know if we're using the app to like send feedback, and when there is things, I try to use it. I might be the only person in sending reports, but I mean, everything's looked great all summer. So yeah, that is what I have.
I'm glad that you didn't catch on when I sent you a direct email going, hey, are you gonna be at this volunteer appreciation event? You should really come.
It was just with 2 kids, I try not to, like, with bedtimes and everything there, I try not to leave my wife stranded too much.
Absolutely.
I'm like, I don't want to go.
I was like, I hope he doesn't think this is fishy.
I guess I'll go. I didn't really know what it was, so. Yeah.
I'm glad you were there.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was fun meeting the families, sitting with Steve and Joyce and everyone as well, so it was definitely a blast. Any other member reports that we want to go through? All right, next scheduled meeting is September 26th, 2024. We have the agenda for that. The other thing is normal future agenda items that I think we go through at the end. But I think we covered that earlier with Tom covering the next 6 months for the most part. Steve, am I forgetting anything before we adjourn?
No, I think you've done well, Tim. Thank you very much. Sorry nobody can hear me. Maybe it's lucky for you.
Awesome. Well, I think we're good for the day. Maybe a record time for 7:23, so we can adjourn for the night.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.